and then was coming up with it as to what it was. And I said, so now look at it, this opportunity that you now have. And is it consistent with what it is that you now see as your personal commitment? And from her standpoint, it wasn't at all. There was not, there weren't even any connecting dots at all. But what she did get was an understanding of where her givens are in a way that she can extrapolate that. Now, where she's going to extrapolate it into business, she's not clear, but that's okay. But now at least she knows what the domain is going to look like as to where to look to be able to understand how to create value for herself. And then the final one here, as you know, the family is just very important to us and to me and to my background and all that. So the building block to me has always been, you know, family legacy, a family homestead, a family compound, and that that is a building block certainly for my life.
So I've got a little bit of feedback for you. This is really good, Larry, and comments in the chat are, thank you for your vulnerability and for sharing this, you know, personal, because it is the way we get context. But again, going back to putting value creation first in 80-some startups, again, a bit antithetical. I mean, it's hard enough to do a startup in any sector today or in the past. And yet you put value creation first when most people, and I would say for a lot of my life, it was, yeah, I want to give value. Sure, I want to treat people well, deliver a great product or service. Kind of secondary to the number one is I got to make money. I got to be profitable. So early in life, you flip it around, which is where I am today, by the way. But I wasn't there early in life, and I don't think a lot of people are. So did you ever find? So did you find? Apparently, you found, but just confirm for us that by going with value creation first, and all that encompasses, including your team, your leadership, your staff, who you serve, all those other things, that you never really had a significant problem with profitability and sustainability of those businesses?
So yeah, so just to be clear though, there certainly were businesses that turned out not to be profitable, right? So, and that's just the name of the game in business. You do your best to find out early on, but there is no question that my driver was always, can I create value first? You know, it reminds me, and this might've been about, 15 years ago, there was this lawyer that really wanted to do some business with me. And so I said, fantastic, bring it on. So he brings me the first one, and he was actually also a securities attorney. So he was very familiar with investing and securities and all that. So he brings me the first deal, and I turned it down. And he brings me the second deal, and I turn it down. And then he brings me another deal, and he says, and this deal, by the way, it was when smoke shops started to become very popular. You know, smoke shops where you go in and you pack your own tobacco and all that stuff, right? And so he brings me that, he brings me the financials for them. They're very inexpensive, by the way. You could put up a smoke shop for $35,000, and you know they were generating. You know, you put it up for $35,000, and they were generating $7,000 a month. You know, kind of like that. So obviously very profitable in terms of their margins, and you have just a couple employees and all that. And I'm saying, no, honestly, he says, you know, you said that you wanted to do some business with me. And I said, yeah, but there's not even one fiber of interest in me to want to build a chain of smoke shops. I mean, why? I can't even, you know, I'm not judging. It's kind of like The Godfather, you know, I don't judge how people make their money. I just don't want to do that. You know, from a value creation standpoint, my first and foremost consideration is, do I create value in what I'm doing? And how do I create value in what I'm doing? Now, I think if I can create value, then I can create a business that institutionalizes that value creation process and a value creation delivery system. But if I don't have value, then, you know, this business is going to be a house of cards. It's not going to have any real value. When I first wrote about that, by the way, it was creating value first, identifying the market where it has the greatest perception of value, and then efficiently connecting the dots between the two. And that's where the profitability comes from, but that now becomes a functional process once you understand the value context. So short answer to the question is, yeah, I was always pretty much a driver on that. That's why I indicated it as a lifelong given. I realized early on that unless I could produce value, one of my first major national products was a Desktop Lawyer, which was a compilation of my legal documents. I wrote every single one of those legal documents. So I knew that had value, and I knew the context within which it had value, and we did sensational selling Desktop Lawyer across the country. So, okay, mindful of time, let me go on to objective number 4. I talked about the protocols that will allow you to address your purpose, your commitment, your intention, and your mission. And what I want to now indicate is on a routine basis and supporting living an integrated life. So I want to make sure I kind of emphasize that. So first of all, it is consistent personal attributes. Now, I'm identifying here personal attributes which are extremely important to me. I'm not imposing those personal attributes on anyone else, but I am saying to you that regardless of what your commitment is, or your purpose is, regardless of what your mission is, there have to be, because what are we doing? We're living an integrated life. You're showing up. So I'm showing up in this Zoom call. I'm showing up when I answer the phone. I'm showing up when somebody walks in and I give them a smile. I stand up and I give them a smile. I'm showing up. Personal attributes are consistent personal attributes. How do you want to show up? And these are, to me, integrity, empathy. For those of you who are involved in that talk that I did about successful living, I used a stronger term. I called it love, integrity and love. At very bare minimum, let's at least call it empathy. When I talk about soft eyes, what I mean is soft eyes, inquiring eyes, eyes that are open to seeing reality, not closed to seeing reality. It's the difference between asking a leading question and asking an open-ended question. How did you feel about that? As opposed to, you weren't offended, were you? How did you feel when that happened? Soft eyes on life, so that you're responsive to the life that's actually occurring around you. You're not responsive to what's going on in your head. Respect for other people. We had a communication, and kindness. We had a communication issue the other day. We just opened Delray Beach, Tuscan Gardens at Delray Beach. We brought in our first residents this week. And it's wonderful. It took us forever. And you can only imagine with COVID, the challenges of getting a building finished so that we could actually open the doors. So we were a wee bit late on that. But the good news is we got to the other side. We're opened. Everybody's delighted. We have a great staff. And you had 2 individuals at the director level who in sort of the stress of beginning to bring residents now in who had deposits and had agreements signed and all that, they were a little bit at each other's throats. And worse yet, with emails. So you have now, email warfare between 2 directors. And we maintain an extremely strong culture at Tuscan Gardens. I did not care one bit what the communication issue was. I cared 100% how it was delivered. Because for me to be able to engage you, I have to respect you. And I have to deliver with respect, diplomacy, and kindness. And I have to listen with respect, diplomacy, and kindness. These are personal attributes. And the only way that I can just show you this, I don't want to pitch these to you. I just want to just say to you, these are important enough to me that they are in every single, every single engagement agreement and performance agreement with every associate that I hire. These are personal attributes that are essential if they want to work in my domain, because it is a critical personal attribute that I want. Final one there, by the way, is the essence of generosity with others is gratitude for what you have. They go hand in hand. If you're grateful for what you have, and you need to be grateful daily for what you've been given, you end up being generous with others because you're so grateful for what you've been given. So bottom line of all this is, I call these protocols of living. To lead an adult life, to lead an aligned life, to lead an integrated life, create the protocols which allow you to align yourself so that you can routinely support that, because you're not saying this is your purpose, but you're acting this way. You want to make sure that you have the personal attributes that are actually aligned with what it is that you're saying your purpose is and your intention. Consistent rules of engagement. And I know that you've heard me talk about this. Personal responsibility, seeing yourself as the cause, not the effect of the consequences of your life. If it happened, I did it. Don't blame others. Take responsibility for what you did, personal responsibility. And the flip side of that same coin is reliability. Do what you say you're going to do. It's a rule of engagement. Do what you say you're going to do. Don't make a commitment that you're not prepared to keep. And if you made the commitment, you're going to keep it. So these are rules of engagement: professional conduct, competence, effective conduct. And when I say that, by the way, to you, I say it again, I don't intend to be preachy. These are mine. This is the way I operate. That's all I want you to do, is to take the time to identify those personal attributes which are consistent with what your purpose is and what your mission is, and to establish what those are, to establish your rules of engagement, so that as you're living your life every day, you're supporting who you want to be. And you get closer to who you want to be by virtue of the fact that you're aligned. Final one is consistent modalities. Only comment on that. I mean, I could have 50 check marks on this. The consistent modalities, I had a conversation. So my boys are about, Jordan is studying for the bar. He graduated, by the way, Georgetown Law. So he's now studying for the bar. He's in bar hell right now. And so he's doing that. And Jared is now off. He's going to Deutsche Bank because he graduated now from Notre Dame, and now he's going to Deutsche Bank in New York. So now they're setting up their accounts and doing all this kind of stuff with all kinds of just complexities that you would not believe. Now, I understand their ages, and I understand that there's this great big gap between my age and theirs. But when you're creating modalities, create modalities that are autonomous, that don't take intellectual energy. So I say to them, even though they had this great big complexity here, I said, tell you what, I have a Schwab account. I have lots of Schwab accounts, but I have my brokerage account. And every one of those brokerage accounts has a bank account attached to it. I only need one bank account. So why don't we do this? Why don't you have your checks go into your brokerage account, and when you cut a check out of your bank account. You know what it does? It's the Schwab account. They're connected with each other. You don't have to move money. You don't have to do anything. It happens automatically. And it's much easier than having to be transferring money from one to another. Same thing with autopay. Set up autopay so you don't have to use intellectual energy to create something that is otherwise autonomous. Bottom line of all of that is develop the protocols that allow you to administer